Yeah, I know what you're thinking. You can get a job in the Middle East simply by trying or by magic, through others, or by fluke. Remember that competition is everywhere. Some here, some there, but bam! Loy Machedo is the best.
Hi there, Loy Machedo. Speaking to you from loymachedo.com. Who's Loy Machedo? Think personal branding. Okay, I got this rather strange question. I didn't expect this, but I got it from someone who I've always looked up to and who is also my client. A very close person. And the person asked me this question: Loy, what kind of podcast do you listen to? Which podcast do you recommend? And what do you think of podcasts? Okay. Now, just to give a background, this person is very successful. Someone who I've looked up to, is more like at a director level, has the potential to be a CEO, but has refused to be a CEO because this individual doesn't want to take pressure at the level that the person is. Whether it is in terms of family, wants to spend time with family, wants to spend time with, and has enough money. Okay, so anyway, so now with regards to podcasts, and that is why I'm making this video. So what kind of podcast do I listen to? What kind of podcast do I recommend? What are some of the things? Now, I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to surprise you when I tell you this. I don't listen to podcasts. So you'll be shocked. What? In a day and age of everyone listening to podcasts, talking about podcasts being so popular, I don't listen to podcasts. Now, why? And I'll tell you why. Now, I'm a guy who reads a lot of books. If you can see, these are just 4 shelves. How many shelves? 1, 2, 3 shelves, okay? There are, I think, around 12 shelves or something full of books, okay? Plus, there are DVDs. Plus, there are CDs. Plus, there are MP3s, okay? And I have hard disks of 2 terabytes, I think around how many, 4 or 5, full of content. Okay, now I've not gone through all of them. Just let me tell you, I think I've gone through 5% or 10%, not more than that. No, even 10% is quite a lot. Okay, I like to collect more than I actually, I like to buy more than I actually read. And I love to read. Okay. So now, why is it for a person like me who loves knowledge, who has invested, I would easily say I have crossed up to $500,000 US into books, okay? And I'm pretty sure it's much more than that, much more, okay? Easily, because I've been doing this from the age of 16, and every time I would earn, part of my salary would go into buying books. I would take a bank loan to buy books. I've actually done this, all this crazy stuff. Okay. So now, for a person like me who loves knowledge, why is it that I don't listen to podcasts? It's very simple. If you actually study the podcast format, what is a podcast format? One person is talking, the other person is talking. Both of them shoot questions with each other and they listen to each other. Okay, if the interviewer is smart and good, like Joe Rogan, he's a really good interviewer. In fact, one of the latest podcasts I've just listened to a few is THAI, Thai Irish. He's an Irish presenter. He's based in Thailand. Thairish, it's called, the Thairish or whatever. I listened to his. I'll put the link below so you can also maybe listen. Now, out of all the years, I've listened to very, very few podcasts. Now, Joe Rogan, who's the most popular, out of his podcasts, I've never listened to anyone full. The only podcast I listened to full was, I'll give the name, I've kept the screenshot here, Daryl Davis, Darryl Davis. He's a black guy who infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan. It was gripping. That was a very rare interview that I listened to the whole podcast. But apart from that, there is no other podcast I've listened to the whole thing. I listen to bits and pieces. Depending on what the title is, I listen to 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay. I do listen to Q&As. That is, especially my favorite one is Jordan Peterson. Or if he's a celebrated author or it's the content for what I'm really interested in. But I seldom listen to a podcast, the whole thing. Now, even this Thai Irish, which I just told you about, I've watched around 5-6 videos of his because they were 15 minutes or 20. I didn't look at the time. I just asked myself, is it interesting? And I listened to 4 or 5. Not the ones which talk about sex and girls and the shocking realities and all that, but someone who's balanced about life. Okay. Now, the reason I don't listen to podcast essentially is because when people are talking, it can go on just sharing an opinion. They just talk about their feelings and, different other things. However, when it's a presentation or when it's a book, it is very focused. Like, for example, when you buy a good book, not some bullshit book and, some of these rubbish. Nowadays, you have the bestseller. You can buy Amazon views. You can literally ask your PR agency to purchase books aggressively, and so it reaches number one on the Amazon list. There are ways to manipulate the system so that you claim that you have a bestseller. Okay. But I'm talking of real books that have real content that is summarized. Especially, for example, if you ask me, I listen to book reviews, a summary of the book review that, like for example, if you were to buy, I have here, where is that? I have Robert Greene, The 48 Laws of Power. It's a very thick book. But if you actually Google search on YouTube, The 48 Laws of Power, it has been summarized to 45 minutes. Okay. So I have listened to this book when taking a shower. Okay. And I listened to it in, 3 bits or 4 bits. In fact, after listening to it, I listened to it again and again and again. Okay. Even Jordan Peterson's GQ interview. Okay, it was not a podcast, it was an interview. That one I've listened to, Jordan Peterson's GQ interview, I've listened to it 8 or 9 times because there's so much of knowledge and it's like it blew my mind off. Like, for example, early on during my career, I used to listen to Christopher Hitchens and how he used to debate with other people. It just blew my mind off. Like Russell Peters is mind blasting. The way his diction, his pronunciation, his language skills, they were so superior, I wouldn't be able to follow it once. I would listen to it again and again and again. But these podcasts, it's just a casual conversation. Most of the people who appear on podcasts, they actually just talk. Very rarely do they have their notes. So that is why I'm not a big fan of podcasts because they simply waste time. They give you the illusion that you are getting knowledge, but all you're getting is an opinion. Rather than a podcast, I found it more beneficial for me to read a book which is very compressed, or even better than a book is a book review, and even better than a book review is a blog that gives you the summary, the best of the book, the key points. In fact, when you buy a book, I'll tell you, this is a hack that I learned and developed, especially when I want to do, just read a book fast. When you buy a book, you read, obviously, the first page is all the praises for the book. Behind is all the praises for the book. But when you open the book, every chapter, I always used to search for, at the end of the chapter, the summary of points, as to just read those points and figure out what is the gist of what is happening here. Even with the book reviews I told you, I used to check the gist of what is happening, and even with those blogs, what is the main points, the key aspect, the meat, like they say. So what it did is it helped me save time. It helped me save the attention, the focus, and if I liked what I listened to another book review. So they would tend to repeat the key points, and this actually helped me much more than listening to podcasts. Today, what I feel is, okay, Joe Rogan is good, but the rest of the other people, they are into podcasting because it's podcast. Like for example, there are some really popular podcasts which I cannot stand, like Lewis or something, and they just talk and they ramble on, and most of the people who come at the podcast want to do it because they want to gain mileage, and they want to get, even Jordan Peterson's podcast, I didn't like them. I really didn't like them. I like his book review, when he does a Q&A or he does a presentation, I like them. but I hated his podcast. I hated his interview. But this GQ interview, you must listen to it. So overall, in a nutshell, what I want to tell you is, for me personally, given that my time is so important, my energy is so important, I want to finish a lot more during the day. I like reading, I like listening to a book review summary that gives the gist of the book. If I have to read, I read the book review as a blog post. So I pick up the good, bad, ugly. In fact, even if you go to Amazon and the book reviews that are there are many reviewers who put the summary of the good, bad, ugly. So I read almost all of them, and that gives me a complete idea. If after that I still find the book is like, wow, this is a book I must read, then I end up purchasing the book. So compared to my habit that was before, see any book, just go to a bookshop and buy 200 books. I've done that. This is not exaggeration. Today, I check on Amazon, I read the book review summary, I see the good, bad, ugly, and then I might actually go to the bookshop, open the book, see the chapters, and see does it appeal to me? Does it jump out? In fact, even the font size, is it readable? And based on all that, only then I take my time and buy a book. And yes, there are some very rare books, like especially sometimes Harvard Business publication come out with some really, really good books. I remember this book about India, why multinational companies fail in India. This was written by, I've put a book review of this, can't get the name right now. I normally don't read books on economics, I find it too boring. But the minute I opened the page and read a few lines, it was so gripping. I bought the book, and you don't believe I couldn't put the book down. Okay, so I'll see if I can remember the name, so that if in case you want to read that book, I've even put a book review. In fact, if you Google search Loy Machedo's 100 recommended reading books, or 100 recommended reading list, you'll get my top 100 books. So overall, in a summary, I do not listen to podcasts because I think they are a waste of time. They just ramble, they just talk, they share their opinions. I feel what they could say in 5 minutes, they drag it on for 45 minutes to 1 hour. And at the end of the day, you're just left scratching with your head. And that is why even today, there is so many podcasts and there are so many people doing it. People have not become smarter. They just just information going to their head, but you're just a lot more information, access to it, but it doesn't help you in any way. So this is what I wanted to tell you, why I don't listen to podcasts. You let me know whether you listen to podcasts or don't listen to podcasts, and what are some of the worthwhile podcasts. You can even put it down if you feel it's worth it. But yeah, you'll be surprised. I really don't listen to podcasts. I might just see a small clip of 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever that YouTube shows. I don't subscribe to Spotify. Even Elon Musk's, I've not seen that, which is so viral and people are going so crazy about it. I just see small bits, and I feel that is what works out for me. And yes, when I listen to a long podcast, when I listen to anything, I speed it up at 1.5 speed, unless, of course, I'm taking down notes, and that kind of helps me. So this is what I wanted to share with you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, good, bad, ugly. I'd love to hear from you. It's me signing off. Take care.